Hi, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to the Intimacy of Voice and Coffee and Conversations. Got some little noise in the background there, but our guest today is Brigette Iarrusso. And so I'm really excited to have Brigette join us today because she is on a mission to support and connect diverse, conscious CEOs, coaches, and consultants so that they can increase their income and their impact. She helps leaders elevate their mindset, strategy, and leadership so that they can earn more while making a positive and socially inclusive impact on people and the planet. Her business model is grounded in equity, inclusion, and racial justice. So, thanks, love. I'm going to take these glary glasses off now, and I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you, Mama.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit more about what you do and really why you are inspired to do the work that you do.
I guess I came to doing business coaching out of a deep belief that entrepreneurship, being able to create income, doing work that you believe in, that you're passionate about, and being able to kind of extract ourselves from the only way we've been taught to succeed, which is sort of this corporate model where we have a job or a career stable somewhere, is really a path to decolonization and economic parity. And we're not there. Like, we're nowhere close to there. But my work began when I was in my 20s, and I was able to see with my own eyes and experience the level of innovation and enterprise and resilience of people with very little. So when I lived in Guatemala in my 20s, I saw indigenous farming communities and female leaders in very, very small remote villages with very, very little access to resources actually build and create out of almost nothing and create a business and an enterprise. And so I started to understand then that ultimately we are all born with the capability of being creative, of being entrepreneurial, of having success. Like, every single human, regardless of where on the planet you're born, what color your skin is, what ethnicity you are, you're initially born with all the same things, all the same potential. And then the universe is full of structural, economic, racial, and social inequity. And so
Absolutely.
you'll take some people that have the equal capacity or greater capacity in the case of, for example, indigenous Mayan farming communities, where they are so deeply attuned to their ancestral wisdom, to the stars, to the farming cycles. Like, they're literally masters at agriculture, and in many ways also masters at being artisans and being entrepreneurs because of their social
Mhm.
behaviors and practices. And what they lack is access to capital, markets, opportunity. And
Mhm.
sometimes, you know, it shouldn't be that way, right? But because of the circumstances of colonization and how we've evolved around the world, we have a lack of equity and opportunity. And so for me, one of the places I've seen where we can actually pierce through that structural injustice is through entrepreneurship. And it's complicated because, like any other space, it is rife with what is historically the centering and benefit and typically highlighting and spotlighting on white people in that industry. And that's not to say that's of constant rule. There are no Black entrepreneurs. I'm talking to you. You're a Black woman. You're a successful entrepreneur. It's not to say there's other Black successful entrepreneurs or Latina successful entrepreneurs. But if you look at the demographics of people earning the most in
Absolutely.
sectors,
Yeah.
in entrepreneurship, like any other, you'll see that there's strong differences. And what I've realized in my work with some of the people in my industry is, like, there are a lot of people that are keen on disrupting that. And I want to be a part of that disruption because I initially was a little bit wary of capitalism.
Mhm.
Because capitalism is a big part of what upholds systemic oppression, right? So systemic oppression is the thing that happened where we decided that it was a good financial business idea to have Black people do labor for free. It was a great
Exactly.
it was a great business model, right? Somebody was like, this is how we're going to grow food and have a successful economy. And yeah, these are these other people that matter less because we've created this narrative about them as lesser humans. So therefore, these people can work for us for free.
Exactly.
And
What I want to actually dial in on you with is because we've all had this mobilizing event while we were in a global pandemic. So, on a personal level, when you saw the George Floyd video, and trust me, there have been so many, we know there's been so many other instances caught on cell phone and video and tape that we have seen, but something about this particular incident, what did you feel when you saw it, and what did you do? I just want to dial in on that for a second.
Yeah. So I guess what's interesting about the context of George Floyd's murder is because of my work in the racial justice side of entrepreneurship, for me, my response was like, here's another situation. It's like more of the same. And I think that I didn't have the reaction that many other white people had of like, oh my God, this is horrible. It's gone too far. Like I had already felt that. And I think for me, it was really Trayvon Martin and his age and the circumstances of his murder. And then the fact that that man, GZ, whose name I will not speak, was driving around my friend town, a Latino town in Florida, bragging with Skittles wrappers on his car for years after he murdered this young man. That for me was my tipping point, way before George Floyd. And so in the months before George Floyd, I actually had reached this kind of critical mass within myself around feeling that my allyship within my business was going to go up another level. And it's interesting because that's essentially what started to happen around that time. And I felt like it was just kind of like I was already going up the situation, and then the situation was meeting me, and then it kind of reached a crescendo. And one of the things that I realized as a white-skinned Latina person was that I can't do this work in entrepreneurship in integrity unless I actually have a Black female coach with my similar values and perspective, but that can actually have a different lens of anti-racism that's like truly grounded in lived experience to complement me. So literally the week before George Floyd's murder, I had brought on an apprentice and a woman that was going to be my co-facilitator of my group programs, because I had decided that it was going to be game on, that anybody that was in my group coaching program that cared about equitable business, that cared about racial justice in general, was going to do the work within themselves as an ally, as part of their leadership and business development. And so that literally happened. And then the day after George Floyd's murder was Alexis's first day on the job in my group program. And it was a moment of like, now what do? We have this community that I've built, which is wonderful because it's diverse. Everyone looks different. I've got Black coaches, brown coaches, people like me that are like dubious in the middle, and then white folks that care deeply about these issues. And the first day we came back, everyone was just locked up in fear and like, what are we supposed to talk about? What matters at this point? Like, and I think that's what I was feeling. That's what everyone was feeling. Like, here I am, this person of privilege. I am keenly aware of what's going on. What is my role here? To say, to do, how do I make space for Black people in my program to share what might be going on with them without putting them on the spot and making them feel like they have to talk about something if they're tired of talking about it, because this is nothing new for them. And then all the white people, like, what do we even say? Like, do we have is it appropriate to speak about this, and how? And so I was in the thick of it, like
like, how do you navigate all of this renewed, I would say, or ramped up awareness and awakening in all of the communities, because I've never, I've been around the sun quite a few times, and I was a child of the 60s, but I have never seen it at this level. Just even hearing of my dad's experiences being a cop during the riots in 1968, being Martin Luther King Jr.'s bodyguard the week before he was assassinated, being a cop on an all-white, mostly white police force, and not being allowed to be in a squad car with a white cop because they wouldn't let him because he was Black. Just the racism within the police community as well. And so, I know that I created this group because I know there's a lot of good intentioned, well-meaning, open-hearted, non-Black allies of Black lives who are at the same point that you are, were at when the day after George Floyd's murder. Like, what do we do? What do we say? How do we help? How do we not make it worse and uncomfortable? How do we not add fire to the pain? How do we do this? And when we do speak up, what are we risking? Especially with entrepreneurs and businesses, because what's happening is, and I found that one of my coaches, Suzanne Evans, said to me, it's not that you're surprised about how some people are reacting and some of the things that they're saying, but your level of disappointment has been raised and amplified. Because, what's coming out, I know in my experience with people that I assumed would be allies because of my friendship with them, and seeing some of the things they're saying and doing, especially on social media, when people, have that coat of armor of protection that nobody can literally punch me in the face because I'm not standing in front of them, so to speak. How do you coach your community into handling the risks and the challenges in their businesses by using their voice and taking a stand and drawing that line in the sand that this is who I'm drawing in?
Yeah.
Anyone else who's not in alignment can buy Felicia.
Yeah, and this is such an important question, right? Because this is where we all are going to put our money where our mouths are and put our time and our resources where our values are, right? And so the first thing I want to say is the one thing that we all have to work on, as I'm in this always when I'm speaking about this, I am never up above, like, I'm better than you, look at me. I'm in the soup, right? I'm a white presenting person, and we all have to understand, whether you want to hear this or not, this is not going to feel fluffy or comfortable. Every single person born and acculturated into this society is racist. I'm going to say that again. Every single person born, educated, and acculturated into this society of ours is racist. And I mean that consistently. That means we've all been raised with constant messages, visuals, and narratives, societal narratives around the difference of people based on race, which is a construct that someone made up. We can all admit that, but that doesn't make it any less real. And it's not to say that we are necessarily conscious of all the ways we have begun to, over our lifetime, accumulate narratives and beliefs about people that look different than us, particularly as they move up the spectrum of melanation, darker and blacker skin tones. We have difference of feelings and perspectives. And the thing that we all as white people have to understand and embrace is that you are not a horrible human being.
Exactly.
For being racist or having racism internalized. It does not mean that you are actively and intentionally perpetuating practices of bias based on racism, or you are not purposefully, intentionally perpetuating the system of oppression. We've all been indoctrinated into the system and we don't know it. And there's the danger in that, because as white people, and because of our religious beliefs and our societal desire to be good and right, to be kind and loving and consider ourselves to be good humans, we have a very hard time navigating the duality of the coexistence of us being good, well-meaning humans and being inherently racist because of how and where we were born and educated, not because we said, I choose to be racist, I sign up for a racist agenda, I willingly want this thing. There are very few people left, or even that you might know, that are of that kind of extreme mindset. Even the people that first enslaved the Africans had some belief system that they were doing something for the good of humanity, a very misguided, broken belief system. And so the first step is getting comfortable with the fact that you can be a good person. You can have a loving, kind heart. You can even love brown people like Eva and think she's beautiful and she's wonderful and she's my friend and I love Black people. And I can still have and hold and harbor racist beliefs, and it doesn't make me a despicable, bad human. So we have to first start there, accepting that that duality lives within us. And then we have to start to understand and deepen our awareness of those narratives and learn to hear them and understand that the things that we reject and fight against and say, I'm not that, and that's
the
not
defense,
you.
the defenses that come up, because you know why, honey? People are individualizing it. And if you look at the system that's not broken, the system is working just as it was created to work. You look at the system that you were in, and this awakening, this awareness, this tone deafness that's being dropped away is uncomfortable. But what I want everyone to hear Brigitte say is, it's not against you individually. We are all, and I hate using the word victim, but we are all victims of the system that we were raised in and indoctrinated in, as subtle and as deep as it is. And the first thing, like you said, is you've got to do the work on yourself and find and be aware of where you have benefited from the system, where it shows up in your life, the patterns, habits, beliefs, and behaviors that unconsciously have been ingrained in you that you may not be aware of. And so what's happening is the awareness is being raised.
Yes.
And the waking up, and there's no need to have shame and guilt over it. Have that if you're not going to do the work.
And if you feel the shame and guilt, I think one of the things that our friend Lisa Denon Young says that I love is normalize the journey, normalize the feelings of guilt and shame and fear and embarrassment. Like, this is part of whiteness. This is part of our coding of patriarchal, hierarchical society, that we are supposed to be a certain way that is good and better than a different way. So you want to talk about what it means to start decolonizing yourself and your beliefs. Most of the things that we think we should be, which is articulate, well-spoken, strong, powerful, independent, wealthy, successful, slim, pale, blonde, all these constructs of what it means to be successful, good, a leader, are white-centered, male-centered, cisgendered, able-bodied, and not in any way divergent or diverse. That is the construct upon which everything in our lives is built. So when we feel like I'm not conforming to that, then we feel like we're not good and we're not right. There's this righteous sense of things. And like, part of the work is understanding that we are incredibly resilient people, capable of making big, smashing mistakes, fucking it up royally, making amends, apologizing, and learning to do better. And when we're stuck in the whiteness and the belief that we have to be right and good, which is a thing that we've been acculturated into by our religions, our churches, our schools, our societal standards. And we think that when we mess up, we're bad, we're naughty, we're shameful, we're evil. Then we fall into that place of being stuck. And so there's so much here. And this is all within that construct of like decolonizing how we think about ourselves. And we can be messy, imperfect, and in progress to improve ourselves around this and still be good, lovable, valuable human beings worthy.
I've got to show you what I wrote on a Post-it just before we got on here. Resilient awareness. It was a phrase that just came to my mind as a Black woman, and the journey of being resilient through the microaggressions, macroaggressions, being successful in a white patriarchal society. What's coming up for me that I feel is something that is how aware now I am about the level of resiliency that Black and brown successful people, and even people who are still on their journey to success, are being made aware of, like the level of that resiliency, and how we as well are guilty in certain situations of not sharing our stories, not speaking up as much as we should, protecting white fragility, not wanting to rock the boat, or just have become so armored to it that the bullets bounce off and we continue. And there are so many stories living within us that we get to share to help with the awakening and awareness in our allies.
Yeah, and this point of like us as white people feeling sensitive or, you know, emotionally reactive to conversations that are difficult about racism, about white privilege, about the fact that our society is inherently unjust. Again, it's about like taking it away from the ego and the personalization of everything, and allowing ourselves to trust and know that we are in good company among all people of privilege, that this is our collective responsibility. Did I create slavery? No. Did I own a slave? No. Did my granny? No. Did her granny? I don't know. Maybe. Is that relevant to all of our responsibility to do the work to unravel and dismantle this? No, because the system's not going to go anywhere. And we as human beings in that system have to become like aware enough to not take everything so personally and feel so unglued every time we're confronted with painful, difficult things. And I'm going to say something here that's really hard to swallow. And again, I'm saying it as a white person. The same reasons that white people fail sometimes in entrepreneurship or in navigating life's challenges is the same reason we fail at allyship, which is that we think we can't handle things, or we think we're going to fall apart, or that somehow we're not, again, a good person or worthy if we make a mistake. Like, I hate to go into the coaching stuff, but it is a growth mindset thing. You have to trust and know that in making mistakes and being corrected, you are learning and doing better, assuming you are not defensive about the correction.
You gotta fail forward. Like, do it. It's going to be messy. It's you're not going to be perfect. That's why, we're in this safe space. Like, let's mess it up. Let's be messy together, and let's move on from it. Because the sensitivity, girl, the sensitivity in the white community is off the charts. I remember hearing you say at a workshop that you and I did together with a couple of other ladies, and that moment, you took a stand in your business to support marginalized communities and bring, social awareness and social justice. It's so much a part of you, who you are, who you be, how you show up in your business, who you help, who you support, who you take a stand for, who you use your voice for. And I remember hearing a white person say, that triggers me because it leaves me out as a white person.
Ay, Dios mío. But when do we ever, you know what? Maybe occasionally if we get left out, we could actually identify what a Black child might feel. Like, why is it not? But that's where we as white people are not understanding that we're never left out. So if we get left out once, it's a good learning opportunity to be like, what does it feel like to be the other? Because I'm never the other. And because of the way I look, I get to code switch, right? I'm half Puerto Rican, I'm half Italian white. I look white enough. If I tone myself down and I don't wear my big earrings and I behave, I can get a job teaching at UC Berkeley. But then what happens is all my Boricuanness accidentally bleeds out because it's who I am. And then it's too much for that white-centric culture, which is where, again, on a gradation of cultural behaviors and speaking and tone of voice, I want to give a tangible example of how we are encoded to think that white is right. And when I say white, I mean certain ways of being that are associated with whiteness, right? So I live in West Berkeley. I live in a very cultured, progressive, liberal city that's been unified and integrated since the 60s, thanks to the Black Panthers. And I have Black people on my block and Indian people and white people, and then us in the middle, that the Puerto Rican and white family. And it looks fantastic on the surface, right? Except you take it and you put it in the context of me and my daughter's white Montessori school. And I have 3 Black friends in the school, totality of an entire school. There are like 3 Black families in the entire little Montessori school. And then there's 2 Latino families, of which my husband is one Latino dad, and my friend Elena's husband, Andy, is the other Latino dad. So over the course of my child attending this Montessori school, the Black and brown parents, for whatever reason that I attract people that feel comfortable telling me their things, begin to tell me, like, this culture here is a little bit not good for us. We don't feel seen. We don't feel included. It's very like white centric. Everyone seems to know each other. We don't get invited to stuff. It feels awkward. And now the same conversation is being had with me. One Black mom tells me this. Another Black mom tells me in a totally different way, but sort of saying the same thing. Then my husband comes to me and says, I feel really uncomfortable at these events and I feel like people don't talk. And I start in with my white mom. Oh, honey, this is not about that. It's not who. And I start like arguing with my husband, not accepting his narrative of what his experience is as a Puerto Rican dad in this all white Montessori school. But then by the time 6 people tell me this, including my friend's husband, I go, wait a minute.
Houston, we have a problem.
This is a real thing. This is not like, oh, one Black person's being difficult and personalizing things and they think it's all about race. Why are 6 people, all of them non-white, telling me on individually, don't know each other, mind you, these are parents from different grade levels because I'm friendly with everyone on the yard. They're saying the same thing. And so then I go back to those people individually and say, do you need me to do something about this? Or do you feel like you can come to the school's administration and share what you're telling me? No, I don't really feel like I want to do that anymore. I've done that before and people get passive aggressive and they make me feel like it's not me, it's not them, it's me. And I don't want to do that again. So I go to each one of these parents and I say, would you authorize me to speak with the school's administration about this, not using your name individually, but to speak on this issue? And every single person except my husband, who was like, baby, please don't go do that. Because he tweaks out and he can't. He's a conflict avoider. Every single Black parent, without fail, one of whom is a PhD in education, who had the teacher tell her that her Black boys' behaviors are different because Black boys tend to have more aggressive behaviors in the classroom. Telling this to my friend who is a PhD in early childhood education from UC Berkeley, where she literally was just like, today, I'm not even speaking. Today, I'm not even going to respond to her. So she gave me permission. She's like, you know what, Brigette? Go have the conversation with them about this. And I'm so curious to hear what they say to you, a white ally, when you go and speak to this. So I got permission from these folks and said, we give you authority to go and speak to the administration. Just don't use my name, but you can certainly say the Black parents. And I'm fine with that. So I go to the administration, I go to the woman, and I start to have the conversation. And she immediately rears up at me and she goes, I do not appreciate you riling up all of the families of color in this school to turn them against the administration. I was like, am I in a movie? It's like a YouTube reenactment of some like the most extreme ridiculous. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm super confused. I am telling you that these folks are having these negative experiences and that they don't feel safe to come and tell you, which is why I'm telling you. And she was like, you have a hidden agenda. This is all about you. You want to create chaos here. And I speak the way I speak. You all can hear the way I speak, right? So I do not speak like a white person, which is where my being Puerto Rican becomes revealed. I don't have a very like PC controlled, self-regulated way of communicating, because that's how there's a certain type of acculturation that happens for that. And Black people learn to do that too really well, but I'm not one of the people that learned how to do that. So when I speak emphatically. And she said that I was aggressive and violent and she felt scared of me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is exactly what Black people experience when they speak up.
Yes.
And
And
it's
then
happening to me. And I'm pale. And
Yeah.
she still thinks I'm dangerous and scary and aggressive because I'm not speaking in passive aggressive, which is a white form of communication. It simply is. Passive aggressive is a form of communication where you're strongly upset or opinionated around something, and you try to use nice, gentle, easy, pretty words to mask your frustration, to try to make it palatable for the other person. And it's often very harmful. It can be a form of gaslighting. And this is a very common way that white people communicate that puts people of color and brown people, or even Asian people, or people that speak culturally in other ways, into the construct of you're bad, you're dangerous, you're unprofessional, and you're wrong. And I, white person who is controlled and regulated, even if I'm saying things that are wrong, racist, harmful, or untrue, if I say them in a cultured and moderated way, and I don't raise my voice, and I don't flail my hands, and I don't make gestures with my face that reveal my emotions, then I am good and right, and you are wrong and bad and dangerous and aggressive, and you need to be dealt with.
Oh, girl, there's so much to be unpacked here. We can go on forever.
And what happened was, the way I got dealt with for being dangerous, we got uninvited to said little Montessori school with a letter from the board saying that I was dangerous and harmful to the school culture.
So these are the risks and challenges that we face when we take a stand in the communities. But, you know, here's my vision and intention, that we are stronger together. And when more and more non-Black allies take on the charge to stand with us, to support us, to fight the fight for us, we can facilitate change. But there's going to be collateral damage. You're going to have to expect it. There are going to be clients that don't want to work with you anymore. There are going to be friends that want to distance themselves from you. There's going to be family members that will want to argue with you at the next time you can get together socially. People on social media are going to be saying mean and nasty things to you. However, you know, one of the things that I really want to emphasize is, please don't get weary. Don't get tired. Don't give up on us. Don't say, when is this going to be over? How much longer? Are we still talking about race? When can we, you know, find a new sense of normal? This needs to be our new normal, is really powerfully taking a stand, using our voices, having the risk, but knowing that, I mean, there was a woman that I reached out to, that I read this powerful post she made in another group, and I reached out to her. And because of that, and sharing what she said about the stand she took and the client she lost, one of her biggest clients, I'm like, girl, you're going to get to manifest people that you love working with and that stand with you in fighting just for racial justice and equality. You know, Black lives just want to matter. We don't want to take over the world.
Oh my God.
We just want to matter. It's really not that big a deal that everybody needs to get their knickers all in a twist. So,
but that's us feeling like, and this is part of where there's the inherent dilemma, is that we do have to lose something as white people to be true allies. If you want to hold on to all the things that you've had and not release or accept that there will be losses, you can't be a true ally, because the definition of being a white person or a person of privilege, when we unpack and decolonize and come to the realization that we do in fact have a privilege, that means we have to be willing to give up some of those privileges. And that's where I'm hitting the rubber in the road here. And I'm being called to task by my Black mentors and women like Rupa Maida, who's a dark-skinned Indian doctor fighting for health rights for Black and brown Indigenous people, who is going to call me to task around, are there ways to be in business today in a way that is decolonized and anti-racist? Are there ways to be a capitalist as an entrepreneur that sells things and benefits from our thought leadership and our products and our services that are grounded in our whiteness? Is it a construct of capitalism that is truly fair and inclusive, or are we part of the problem? Are we contributing to the construct in the online coaching industry and thought leadership and leadership development, where, yes, again, there's some Black coaches making good money, but for the most part, it's white people buying from white people so white people can rise up and get more clients and do better and continue to move up the chain? And so for me, I want to speak into that directly through the lens of entrepreneurship. Like, if you want to disrupt racial and economic inequity, using the construct of your entrepreneurial venture, your business, is the best place to do that. And it's how you can go from being intending of allyship or performative in your allyship, meaning showing signs of allyship, but moving beyond a performative way of being an ally to like an invested way, is build your business to be anti-racist. I'm going to give you 4 ways to think about becoming more anti-racist in your business. Think about who your business serves and why. Is your purpose model including a purpose to center, benefit, and lift up people that are not white? Even if it's not intentional, go down there and do the intentional work to think about, did you think about and design your business to benefit Black, Indigenous, people of color in some way? Does your business model create space for people that may or may not have access to the same level of capital and opportunity? And this is where I'm going to get this feedback. But Brigette, my business is hardly making any money, so I can't possibly create sponsorships or give back to communities of color yet because my business is not working. This is where me as a business coach is going to ask you to zoom out and say, part of why your business might not be working could be part of why the business model itself is flawed, right? Like, when you actually look at societally what our actual biggest problems are, it's racism, economic injustice, and environmental chaos that disproportionately affects people of color, and health issues that disproportionately affect people of color. So this is where
we're going to have to wrap this.
Okay.
What is your final word, love? I mean, this is all great, juicy stuff, and I know you and I could talk forever on it. But so what is the one powerful, powerful action step that people who want to do the right thing, and everybody has a different level where they can have an impact based on their situation, but what is the one action step that you would encourage people to start doing to strengthen their allyship?
Have a Black mentor and get comfortable with learning from not palatable, gentle, only easy Black women to palate. Follow and listen to Black women who do not candy coat their message, and start to look at how you respond to them and what they are saying, and where are you on a level 1 to 10. And again, I'm in the soup with you. When I first started my journey of allyship, I would listen to Louisa Duran, or this other woman, not Candace Owens, another woman named Candace Jackson, who's very outspoken and she's very hard in her stance around this work. Maisha Hill's pretty strong. She will say, I'm not your house N, and I don't use the master's vernacular when I speak. Like, she's very strong and direct, but she's also loving and compassionate. Listen to lots of Black women in the space of anti-racism and take note of your inner reactions to them. And then the second stage is Get to know Black people and their lived experience, not from a hand's distance, from a professional, like get to actually really know and listen to Black people once you build enough trust and relationship, and listen to their stories and listen to lots of Black people's stories. And as you begin to do that, you'll really start to connect and unravel those things, your reaction to it, and then creating this deeper reality of what other people's lived experiences. I think those two things in tandem are really powerful.
Sage advice, and I just want to thank you, love, for being willing to come on here. I know you're dealing with a lot in your life, and I just want to let you know that I love you. I understand a lot of what you're experiencing, and please reach out if I can support you in any way, because the roller coaster of those emotions is a real thing.
Yeah.
And you know, and I've got your back on this. So
I love you too.
I love you, and thank you for sharing, you know, your experience, your passion, your drive, and just the action steps that you are taking to show up as a better ally and to strengthen your allyship as well. And so, guys, I just want to let you know, next week starts a national holiday, which is my birthday, and we are not going to be doing a live coffee and conversations, but what we will be making available to everyone is just kind of a replay. So if you miss me so much, you can just really go on and listen to some of the coffee and conversations that have gone before, and I will be back on the 21st. So everyone have an amazing weekend, and thanks again, love. I appreciate you.